What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I'm making a third news video on a possible second retraction, and now I think the book we're going to get on the 12th is about the Feywild, and I'll tell you why. So, I had said, I didn't know where we're going to go. We know we're going to get, like, campaign settings was kind of the focus of 2021. I thought the original interview said classic settings, but I think it might have just said settings. And the problem that I see, and you probably have seen it too, with campaign settings is if you don't have any desire to play in that campaign setting, it is not useful to you unless it provides other things like player options. So I happen to have just here in front of me my Eberron book. You might not care about Eberron at all and not have any desire to play in the world of Eberron. And that is your prerogative. You are allowed to do that. But the way they get you to go buy Eberron is to include new race options, new class options, new spells, new magic items, etc. So that's how we get you to buy a campaign setting, even if you have no interest in the campaign setting. How do we fix this? How do we get a campaign setting or something like that to be universally world agnostic and allow anybody to use it? Whether you're playing in Eberron, Faerun, or your own homebrew world, how do I make it appeal to you? Well, the way you do that in my mind is, again, I said Feywild at the start, is to have it be planar based. The planes exist regardless of the world you're in unless you create custom planes for your world. But if I set something in the Shadowfell, the Nine Hells, the Abyss, Mount Celestia, Pandemonium, whatever it is, that's useful to you, and you can use that as to help tell your story. So I thought maybe those spooky subclasses, the spirits, the spirits bard and the undead or whatever it was, warlock, were going to be tied to a Ravenloft campaign setting, or maybe the Shadowfell, because they have sort of a correlation in the lore now. I don't think that that's the case, or we might still actually get that. Let me rephrase. But I think we're going to get Feywild, and I'll tell you why. Neverwinter is an MMORPG that's been out what seems like forever right now. It started with 4th edition. All of the classes and everything tied to it were very 4th edition inspired. Then when 5th edition came out, to keep with the times, they've made a lot of strides to remove nomenclature and wording and things that were tied to 4th edition to make it more 5th edition. For example, I can tell you that the Paladin used to be called the Oathbound Paladin, and that was kind of just how it was framed. And they removed the concept of Oathbound Paladin, and now it's just called Paladin because that's what it's called in 5e. Alongside 5th edition and all of the campaign storyline releases, they have had storyline drops in Neverwinter. So when Tyranny of Dragons came out, they had it correlate with a Tyranny of Dragons story in Neverwinter. When Out of the Abyss came out, they had it correlate to an Out of the Abyss Underdark demon-based campaign, and so on. We've seen this throughout. When Tomb of Annihilation came out and the concept of Chult and all that stuff came out, there was a Chult Tomb of Annihilation release in the game. And we've seen that as new things have come out, Descent into Avernus, Icewind Dale, all of this stuff. There's been a physical book and a drop release in Neverwinter of new content. So obviously they need to be aware of it early so that they can work this stuff into the background. And I could be wrong, but I don't think in recent months or years even, we have seen new releases drop into Neverwinter of like big content expansions that weren't tied to a D&D book, because you got to build around the storyline that exists. So I don't know if they've had the time or the developers to work on other content that's not tied to the new books. That's also a great way to keep a super old MMO relevant. They released a trailer yesterday, and I missed this when I was doing my video, so let's go, Ted, and take a look.
With the aid of heroes from Neverwinter, the Iliambruan elves finally defeated the armies of Malabog, the Fomorian king, who threatened the Feywild home of Sharundar. But the peace did not last.
A visitor. I've been dying to meet you.
So right there, you can see that was Neverwinter Sharandar, set to release in the beginning of February of this year. So it's supposedly coming on the 9th of February, which would be well after the release of the book's title, which we're going to get next week on the 12th, but also in advance of the actual book itself coming on the 16th of March, whatever that book is. We heard a couple of things there. It's something about the Feywild. They mentioned a different kind of elf, this group of elves, and a Fomorian king, which would be a type of monster. I forget if they're technically giants, but the story and the lore of Fomorians is basically they were super beautiful and something happened, they got cursed, and they became all ugly and gross. We also saw a hag there. Hag's got a lot of tie to the Feywild there, so this could be a hag-based adventure. So it says, trademark 2020 Wizards of the Coast LLC. So they probably put that together last year. And it seems to me, if you're going to have a whole Feywild release, new content drop into Neverwinter, it wouldn't be out of the... why would you do that if it wasn't going to be tied to something else? Let's go ahead and watch that trailer one more time. And we saw some grung. I don't know if you saw them. They were in there as well, the little frog people. Let's watch it again. See if we can get anything else out of it here. Unicorn?
With the aid of heroes from Neverwinter, the Iliambruan elves finally defeated the armies of Malabog, the Fomorian king, who threatened the Feywild home of Sharandar. But the peace did not last.
A visitor. I've been dying to meet you.
So that makes me think that it might be a new adventure path, a new adventure tied to the Feywild. It might be a new campaign setting, or a planar setting tied to the Feywild, or maybe a combination of both. Maybe we'll get kind of like what we see when we get a campaign setting, like Eberron. The beginning of the book will give us here's some background and lore and information about the Feywild as it applies in the 5th edition time frame. Here's what it is, and then here are your adventure paths, right? It looks like it's probably going to have a tie. We might be dealing with this aftermath, or might be playing through this fight with these elves fighting a Fomorian king. We might be dealing with these different a hag coven is a pretty cool concept for an overarching villain for a campaign. And it does potentially give us the option to add new character things in it. If it is truly a campaign setting, then we will. If it's just an adventure like we see with Icewind Dale or things like that, we might be getting new magic items, we might get new backgrounds, but I don't think we'll get new hard character options like classes, unless that Iliambruan elves that they mention, if that's of import, we might get a new elf subrace. It'll be interesting to see, though, how races are released post Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So anyway, folks, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I have so many videos that I recorded that I was planning on releasing, but all of these things keep coming out, so I keep having to divert those. I'll see you all next time.